Are we live? We're live! Just let me know when we have folks in the room. Cool. So it's kind of windy. We'll get this done as soon as we possibly can. It's a little... I'm just going to keep spraying and spritz, spritz, spritz. Please keep... Stay on the table. Oh, there's 4 people! Woohoo! We got specimens to share. We're spritzing them so they don't fly away. All right. Welcome. We got 6 people. Awesome. Well, welcome. My name is Kat, and behind the camera is our lovely Terry. And welcome to our program about lichens. We're going to get started here pretty well shortly. But to give you guys some background, we're actually here at Penitencia Creek Park. We're actually near the percolation ponds near Reach 1, which is a part of where our agency actually helped to fund. To give us a little bit of background, we represent the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. And a part of our mission is helping to conserve open space for wildlife, for water resources, and for working lands. And a big part of it is actually helping to fund places for you guys to go and explore and hike in your own neighborhoods. So we actually have an urban grant program. And a part of that, part of our programs and our funding actually went to Reach 1 of Penitencia Creek Trail, which extends from Noble Elementary all the way up to Alum Rock Park. How are you guys? Are you guys able to hear me okay? It's a bit windy. Torrential winds right as I start talking. We were fine for like the past 30 minutes, and then it's just decided to be like... Okay, that's awesome. I have the mic like right under my chin, so you probably hear me loud and clear, hopefully. But we're here at Penitencia Creek Park, and we're actually here to give you some information about lichens. So, what do we want to know about lichens? First off, I wanted to just give you a little bit of like some tips and tricks for kind of looking for lichens. First off, we recommend you stay on trail when you're out looking for anything. And that's because a lot of these lichens actually are on the ground. They're on branches, they're on rocks, and they're also, in the soil actually. So you want to stay on trail so you can avoid stepping on those, and so then you can actually get to appreciate them. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, sorry, the papers are trying to fly away. The other thing that I wanted to mention is we don't, necessarily want people to go collect them, and that's because they're, they can be a very sensitive species or a sensitive group of organisms. So try to refrain from doing that. And if you absolutely, have to, you can collect them. We do recommend, like we did here, where we collected the substrate of the lichen. So then that way we're helping to keep it intact for our observations. Otherwise, what I'm doing right here actually is spraying them down a little bit with just some distilled water, and that's going to help when you're handling them, because they're going to want to like crumble, especially in this kind of weather. We've been getting, it's been a really hot summer, as you all probably know, very dry, and lichens during the summer, they tend to dry out really quickly, and when you like even handle them, they'll just fall apart in your hands. So you want to be extra gentle, and to help with transport and all of that, you want to spray them down with water, and then they become like pliable. But so I wanted to start off this program with asking you guys what you know about lichens. So I don't know, Terry, we were talking about this before, but like, are lichens plants? they're green.
They grow on plants.
They grow on plants. They grow on things. They grow everywhere. So what do you guys think? Are lichens plants? We'll get some answers. And hopefully not blow away.
Don't be scared. I know you know, Ron. Colonies of fungus and algae, I think, says Kaji.
That is correct.
Ta-da!
Awesome. So this is what really makes lichens really interesting to me, is that they are a relationship. So like you can think about, I'm going to put my clipboard over here and hope that it doesn't blow away. But you can think about a lichen as being intertwined with another organism, which is usually a plant-like organism like a cyanobacteria or an alga, or basically an algae, okay? And, whoa! We're starting to lose things. So just so you know, these organisms, they intertwine with each other, and what's so fascinating about them is the lichen provides services to the algae. It provides protection. It helps to absorb nutrients and moisture from the surrounding atmosphere, and algae actually helps to provide sugars. So algae are like protoplants. They're the very beginnings of plant life, and so they have chloroplasts, and they can actually take the sun's energy and turn it into sugars. So it's a pretty good relationship for the most part. There is some evidence that some fungi actually coerce the algae into, they're kind of mean. They coerce the algae into making sugars for them. There's some evidence that there could be like more than one fungus in a lichen. There could be more than one algae or cyanobacteria in a lichen. So it's not so simple as one fungus, one algae, and they live together in harmony. There's some drama involved. It's escaping. Okay, well, I have another example, so we will pick that one up later.
Hold on to this pole for a minute.
Okay. We need more rocks. Terry, do you want to grab that rock?
Oh, there's some little ones here.
We'll see.
Oh wait, this one's better.
There you go. Perfect.
You escaped.
It escaped. We were usually...
This guy escaped right here.
Lichens usually don't try to escape so much. And this is another reason why you want to collect a substrate. I couldn't collect a substrate with that one because it was a fence post. So you do what you can. In any case, so what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, that's right. Relationships, drama. The best analogy that I have come across in the literature regarding like fungi and algae and how they interact in a lichen ecosystem is a farmer and his crop. Basically, I feel like your table's going to fly away. I swear, this wasn't like this 30 minutes ago. But no, so basically the fungi, say that 10 times fast, is the farmer, and the algae is the crop. So if you can think about it that way, it makes you really look at some of these organisms in awe, because they were practicing agriculture like thousands, millions of years even before humans were. So yeah, lichens are cool. All right, so I wanted to kind of illustrate that. Actually illustrate the structure of a lichen. So this is a close-up of a specific type of lichen, And what you can see is that, so you have an outer cortex of fungi on the outside, and that's the orange stuff. On the inside, you actually have these yellow kind of pores, and that shows some of the like granules of like little bits of algae. And the outer cortex is a fungus part, and it's what protects the inner layers of algae and more fungus. So they're like layer cake in there. And then underneath the whole thing, you have basically fungus filaments that will creep into like rock and other substrates, etch acids into that substrate, and grab hold. So this is not quite looking like a plant to me. This is more like something completely different, something completely decentralized in terms of body plan. Because they're so decentralized, they actually they have a huge variety in body plans that you can imagine. In fact, we have quite the variety here, and we're going to talk about each of those different types of body plans. So let me put that over there so it doesn't blow away. But first off, is this a lichen, guys? Given what we just talked about, I think I touched my mic, so it might have been a little weird. Is that a lichen, guys? And actually, this might be the great opportunity for Terry to put the macro lens on, so then she can get a close-up on this.
On says no, it's not.
It's not a lichen.
That would be correct.
That is. This is actually a species of moss. There's actually a few in here. It looks like there's like shingles moss and some other kinds of mosses. But I want to show you guys what that looks like close up. Are you able to get a good close up there? Look at all the fuzzies. So moss, generally, because they're a part of the actual plant family, they have stems, they have leaves, they're very, very microstructured, and they're protoplants. So they're not like your trees or your other plants, because they don't necessarily have the vascular structures in place for doing all the photosynthesis that those larger plants do, but they are still protoplants. And that makes them different than, say, I'm going to grab a good one here. We're going to talk about, let's do this one.
Did I leave the thing on? I took it off.
Yeah, let's leave the macro lens on. Oh, now
I
we're...
touched the screen and it did something.
Uh-oh. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So let's focus on this gray stuff right here. So this is a...
Hold still with the wind.
Yeah.
Here, I'll try to... Okay, so if you lift it up a little...
Right there.
There we go.
So this is actually the first body plant that we're going to talk about, which is the Crustos Lichen. I like to call them the Crusty Lichens. And you can tell that they're crusty because they look like a crust. You will find this type of body plant growing on branches, rocks, sidewalks, roof shingles. They're actually a really, really sturdy lichen. And the reason that we call them a crust is because they also, you can't see the underside of them. You cannot peel them up. They are very, very tacked on there. I'm not going to be identifying any lichens to species today because, oh boy, that requires a microscope and usually chemical tests. But I can at least get some of these to genus. I'm not entirely sure about this guy. I did not get a good idea on that because crusty lichens are the hardest to identify. But admire. Look at all the cool little microstructures on there. Yeah. It's got a bunch of like nodes on it, which lead me to believe that those are like fruiting bodies. So some lichens, not all of them, will actually reproduce sexually, and they produce these little cup things that produce spores.
What we probably should do is put it on the table and hold it down.
Okay.
I'm worried you guys are getting motion sick.
No worries. Here. You want me to put it right there? We'll put it right there. Just like that.
Ooh, there we go.
That's a good one. Just like that.
You can see what we're talking about too.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That is such a good view. So yeah, those little cups in there are like the fruiting bodies. And this is a crusty lichen, or Crustos, rather. Crustos Lichen. Super cool. So there's two more different body plans that I do want to mention. One of them is the Folios Lichens. So that includes, let me get a good section of it here. So that we actually that is a Fruticos. We don't want to talk about Fruticos yet. And actually the great variety that we have on the table is Fruticos. But let's see. Ooh, maybe ooh. Here we go. Now I so this is a green shield. It's part of the Parmeloides genus. And you can tell the Folios lichens because they look like leaves. It's folios or foliage. And it basically means that there's two sides to the lichen. And as you can see, like there's an upper side and then there's an underside underneath, and it curls up. So the edges aren't cemented to the substrate.
So Oren's asking, are they spores that then produce just from fungi then? And how would the algae spread alongside it?
Oh, that's gosh, you had to ask that question. So I will actually get to that question later in the program. Thank you for asking it. But we will actually talk about the reproduction of these different lichens right after we talk about Fruticos Lichens. But so yeah, this is a Parmeloides, and you can tell because it has like two different sides, and they do peel up a little bit. So super cool there. We have a couple of them in there. What? I actually have a couple. Ooh, there's some yellow ones. So sometimes Fruticos lichens. Whoa. Let me just get it. There we go. Sometimes Yeah, it's really hard. There you go. Sometimes Fruticos lichens have really small leafy lobes, but they're still, or I keep calling them Fruticos. They're folios. Sometimes Folios lichens have long, like, leafy lobes like that, and sometimes they have little ones, like this one does. This is a really, really tiny specimen, and I think it's a species of Xanthoria.
This looks like space stuff.
Yep. So the last one that we are going to mention today is, ooh, there's so many examples. The Fruticos Lichens. So we're gonna, ooh, ah! It's okay. It's okay. Someone's escaping. So this is actually, can you pull up just a little? Oh, there you go. Awesome. So this is an Avernia. Now what makes a Fruticos lichen different from the other two types is these generally they tend to be upright. They tend to stick out. they'll be bushy, or they'll have long, stringy hairs. Generally, the stems can be either hollow or rounded, or they'll produce cups. So these lichens are just so cool. And this is really like where the diversity comes in structure, are the Fruticos Lichens. I mentioned this is an Avernia. This is also called oak moss. And this is a very, very common general type of lichen that you're going to find throughout our oak woodlands. Super cool. So I know, oh, don't say sorry, oh, you're good. In any case, we did have a really good question that talked about reproduction. And it was actually something that I was going to ask you guys about, what you thought allowed these, basically these ecosystems to reproduce themselves. So what do you guys think? Like, if it's two organisms, do both of them get a chance to reproduce? We'll just do like more close-ups of really cool ones. Like, look at this gray rosette there, like right there. It's right. Woo! You just go down a little bit. Oh, like towards you. Yeah. Whoa.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. So that's another Folios Lichen. It's like a rosette. I guess nobody wanted to answer my question, so I'm going to try to give my best explanation. So Oren did bring up a good question, and that is, so basically, does only one of these, one of the partners basically get to reproduce? And the fascinating thing is, yes, the fungus generally gets to reproduce because it's the dominant partner, and so it's the one that gets to produce the spores. But unfortunately, the fungus can't live for very long without the alga. And alga does not get to reproduce usually in this state of things. So lichens actually have a couple of different methods by which they will try. Let's look at that one. Woo! There's another Xanthoria. So they have a couple of different methods. There's the sexual reproduction, which is with the spores and with the cups. But some lichens will just crumble up and fly away in the wind. And those little pieces of fungus, or pieces of lichen, have both fungus and algae in it, and it can go and colonize a new area and basically take hold and reproduce vegetatively. And vegetatively basically is a scientific way of saying they reproduce asexually. It's kind of like if someone was to cut off my fingernail and grow a whole new me out of it.
What?
Yep. It's like cloning. So that's essentially what they will do, is they will clone, especially when they don't have a way of reproducing sexually. Very cool. Awesome. So we're out here today, and it's really, really windy.
Should I take this off?
We're actually, we're going to be talking about some of the specific ones that we have on this table. I did want to mention some of the specific lichens that I have here because I went and I found them, and I want to show you. So, first off, this is a type of lichen that we see very commonly, especially in your areas that don't have a whole lot of air pollution. I see this at Rancho Cañada del Oro and in Clara County Park. I see it basically everywhere in the Bay Area, especially where there's nice fog, lots of moisture, and lots of deciduous trees. Does anybody recognize this lichen here? It's got this nice lacy view. It's kind of stringy. It's very delicate looking. This is so cool. I love the way that looks. Anybody? So this is actually our state lichen.
Ta-da!
I'm actually going to hold it up and we'll let people kind of see how it looks like upright. And I guess we can probably take the macro lens off for now. Awesome.
There we go.
There we go. So this is Ramelinia menziesii, or commonly known as lace lichen or fishnet lichen. And it's a very, very, very easy to find and very easy to identify. You'll often find this hanging from tree branches, especially like I mentioned in the areas I mentioned in South County and in areas with low air pollution, because they're very sensitive to air pollution. So we want to be careful. You know, they definitely are like really sensitive to lots of smog and cars and fires. Very sensitive to air pollution. What I wanted to say about these is they're also a really integral part of our ecosystems. Lichens in general are very integral, but what we found out about Ramelinia is actually that they collect nutrients during the summertime. Because they have this net-like body, they can collect lots of air particulates, which isn't necessarily great. I mean, when you think about the air pollution, that's why they're so sensitive to it. But they can also collect lots of nutrients like nitrogen from the air, and they can collect other trace nutrients from the air. And when the winter rains come, they take those and all those nutrients and things that they've absorbed, and they drip it onto the tree's roots.
She's asking if you have any idea how old a lichen like that is.
No idea.
That's a cool question.
That is a really cool question, now that I think about it, because since they reproduce vegetatively, like they could be thousands and thousands of years old, you know? That is a really cool question. I wish I could be a Google machine right now and give you a good answer, but I'm going to have to say I don't know. The other interesting part of this lichen is it's also really integral because a lot of birds like to use this as nesting material. If you've ever seen a hummingbird nest, you'll often find little bits of Ramelinia hidden in the nest in order to help camouflage the nest. It's also a little bit springy, especially during the wet months, so it helps that nest to stretch. Lots of birds, Hutton's vireo, loves like lace lichens. They flourish in areas where there's lots of lace lichens. Those killdeer are just having a party over there.
They're all the way across the pond, and there's a big crow or raven or something.
Oh no!
I can't see because my glasses. Oh
Yeah.
vulture?
Maybe I can't tell.
Flew over them and they had a fit.
They had a fit. Terry tells me that those killdeer are here very often. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, that's right, lace lichens. State lichen. The other thing is you can actually tell where the deer have browsed, because there might be a browse line in the trees when they're like trying to get up to the lichens, because they love this kind of lichen. It's so rich in nutrients. It's so delicious to them. So you may want to keep an eye out for that next time you go to one of our open spaces. Let's see. I mentioned they're really sensitive to air pollution, so they actually help us to monitor air pollution. I mentioned all the cool stuff about this. This is a really, really cool lichen. So if you ever get a chance to get a good close-up on it, please do. The next one that I wanted to mention, and I will have to look for my specimen, and hopefully it didn't fly away. Let's see. If it did... Oh, actually. Ha ha ha. I left it in the box for a reason. I didn't want it to fly away. So, this one often gets... it gets confused with the lace lichen. It's called Usnea, or old man's beard. And old man's beard is really, really cool. Ooh, are we getting a good view there? Awesome. It's really, really cool because you can actually like stretch it a little bit. It usually has a central cord, and that's kind of how you can tell it from the lace lichen. Is the lace lichen looks lacy and pretty, and this really does look like an old man's beard. I'm not lying. Only I don't think most men have green beards. But anyway,
you never know.
You never know.
People have been sequestered a long time ago.
But generally they're a lot more bushy. They're fruticose. They're going to have lots of tendrils. And the central cord is stretchy. It's like stretchy like a rubber band. I'm not going to do it here because I really don't want to damage this. But if you do see them, you're generally going to find them... Ooh! I lost a piece. You're generally going to find them in coastal areas with lots and lots of fog. They really like dug fir to grow on. And this lichen has been used by Native Americans, by generally many different groups of people, because Usnea, most of the species within the genus Usnea have antibiotic properties. So they're used for packing wounds, for use as diapers. They're obviously used by birds in their nesting material. So these are really, really useful to people, and also another great indicator for air pollution. You know that you're in a really clean forest that isn't impacted a lot by air pollution when you see Usnea. Awesome. I am going to put this under a rock. Okay. What's the other ones that I want to... Ooh! So this one... this one's the escapee. And this one's actually one of my favorites. So I'm going to wet it so he's happy again. But, let's see, what's the genus name? It's Lytharia vulpinus. Yeah. This is wolf lichen. Wolf lichen. Actually, I did not realize how common that this is throughout the world. It's found throughout the world, especially really likes areas where it can get really cold. So I see this all the time up in this high Sierras. If I'm looking up in the trees, the pine trees will be absolutely covered in wolf lichen. You'll see these like bright green looking things hanging out in the trees. I usually, when I see these in the Bay Area, I see them on fence posts. They like conifers. They like pine trees. And so you'll find them hanging out there. In fact, I had to pull over the car the other day and take a closer look when I was driving up Mount Hamilton Road before the fire. And I noticed that there were wolf lichens all over these fence posts along the road. Super cool. This very, very easy to identify because of the color. It's a bright, bright green. Very easy. It's also got that bushy texture. It's like the Usnea almost, but brighter green, like brighter, almost yellow.
You could put them side by side.
Yeah, we can look at them side by side. Let me see. The Usnea is also, like, I think a little finer in the threads.
Cool.
But what is really, really fascinating about the wolf lichen is it was often used as a poison for wolves and for foxes and coyotes around the turn of the century. It's kind of a bad chapter in our history where we moved into areas and we needed to remove top predators because they were taking out our livestock. This would be used, it would be pulverized and added to a carcass to poison wolves and other species.
This is not one you want to eat.
No, this is not one that you want to eat. This is not, I mean, I would generally question eating anything this brightly colored unless it was, well, even things that are manufactured by people this brightly colored. It's probably not good for you. Yeah. But it's also, yeah, so it's kind of an interesting thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is the poison that's in this does affect like all mammals. So yeah, you don't want to eat it. You don't want to feed it to anything. Just look at it and enjoy, appreciate. It is a very beautiful lichen. Let's see. So I talked about the Ramelinia and Usnea and the Vulpina. Oh, shoot. There's a couple of other ones that I want to show you guys. So we actually showed you the Xanthoria earlier, and this is one that you will find almost everywhere in the Bay Area, and it's not necessarily going to be super affected by air pollution. In fact, there are some species of Xanthoria that love air pollution. So yeah, they actually do really well with air pollution. The Xanthoria genus really likes nitrogen, and when I'm up in the high Sierras, I generally use this to indicate like rodent burrows and rodent latrines, which is just a fancy word for area where they go to the bathroom, because there's going to be like lots of nitrogen, and because it has lots of nitrogen, this stuff will grow really well, especially in the high alpine areas, because generally there's low nutrient availability up there, and so these lichens are looking for every advantage that they can possibly get. You will also, especially around here, you'll find these growing on bird perches. In fact, I'm pretty sure this branch, I picked it off, and it looked like there was like lots of bird poop around it. So, you know, it's what you do for science. So I'm pretty sure this was very, very high nitrogen rich piece of stick here. The other thing is they also really like harsh conditions. They'll grow in really bright sunlight, harsh conditions. A lot of these other like greener lichens, they generally do better with a lot of foliage, like a lot of shade, a lot of cover from high intensity light. But these guys don't care. So very awesome. Did we ever get a good close-up on this? Oh, we should show them the fruiting bodies on that one. So I'm going to set it on the table because we're learning. But take a look at that. Like, oh yeah, there we go. Look at those fruiting bodies. Beautiful. Super cool. Yeah. This, I don't know. I flip between like the Xanthoria and the Vulpinia as like my favorites because they're just so brightly colored. They're beautiful. So the last one that I did want to mention to you guys,
Sorry.
hopefully we don't lose anything. Where? I know. Oh, yes. Yes, there it is. Okay. I was like, where did my Avernia go? So this is the last one I wanted to talk to you guys about. And this is one of the most common ones that you are going to find. And I have issues with identifying this one all the time, so don't feel bad, okay? Because this one can be tricky. This is a species of Avernia. It's also called oak moss, and it's very, very commonly found in our forests. You can identify this because it's a Fruiticost Lichen. In fact, one thing that I love doing with this one is spraying it with water and watching it move. It moves just a little bit. But, so they're generally, like I said, Fruiticost. They have strap-like stems, which means they're flat on both sides, and kind of like thick. They kind of look like antlers. They're like deer antlers or elk antlers. They're very branching. The one that I actually most often get tripped up by is this one. And then there's another species of Ramelinia, which is like the lace lichen. It's this guy. So this one, I'll put both of them together. Like next to each other, they look nothing like each other. But if you don't have your guide with you, sometimes these can get really tricky. So this is another type of actually lace lichen. It's like leptocarpa. And these guys actually have little like feet on them, on the branches. They're really cool looking. Whereas the Ramelinia tend to end in like this more pointed antler structure. But yeah, they are so cool. And getting to look at all the different varieties. Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions about lichens?
It seems we mostly viewed lichens that live on organic matter. Any major differences between these rocks? Oops. I pushed C more and it did something else. And those dwelling on, like rock dwelling colonies.
So generally I have seen more crusty lichens on rocks, but that's not always the case. I have seen some folio species, like we have a rock here. I haven't been very successful in finding specimens. Yeah. I haven't been super successful in finding rock specimens with lichens on them, generally because I'd have to move boulders to do that.
We do have some on Coyote Ridge.
We do have glorious looking lichens on Coyote Ridge. But in general, I see a lot more crusty lichens and a lot more Folios Lichens on rocks. It's much more difficult for them, for like the Fruticos species, to get a major grab on rocks. It just tends to be a much more harsh environment for them. That's what I usually get from it. But sometimes you will find the same species on different substrates. Your best bet with like trying to, I guess, identify them or to distinguish between them is to look at a guide and see what it says about different substrates which they like. For example, I've noticed the Vulpina really likes conifers, and might have something to do with the chemical composition of that particular type of tree. It has softer wood, it has a lot more acidity, whereas our oak woodlands, they have a slightly different chemical composition. So these different lichens, they've evolved with different habitats in mind. Oop, I hope my lace lichen doesn't fly away. And so some of them are going to have preferences, but generally anything goes with these. If they can make it, they'll do it on either a rock or a branch. One thing I did want to mention is that lichens are a really integral part of the local ecosystem because they help to create soil and they also help to hold soil in place. If you guys have ever been to the deserts, you'll see things like living crusts, biocrusts, and those are essentially lichens that grow on the top of soils and hold soils in place where no other things can survive. So it's actually providing a service in terms of like erosion control. Obviously these guys aren't producing a whole lot of soil, not at a fast rate, but if you consider like how long they've been on Earth, they've done a pretty important job for us in terms of agriculture. So as the proto farmers, they've given us a thing or two, definitely. Do we have any other cool questions?
That looks like it's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming out. We're sorry that it was super windy. I was expecting it to be a lot less windy today. We were just happy to have somewhat clear skies and not a whole lot of smoke. That's another thing that's really important is when we think about lichens, we think about air quality and what all organisms need in terms of healthy lifestyles. So lichens do have an impact from wildfire, but luckily wildfires are mostly short term. So I'm crossing our fingers that the impact to some of our local lichen species won't be, super impacted. But it is something to look for. So if you're curious about them, I suggest getting yourself a handy hand lens and get yourself a guidebook and take a look outside your front door. All right. See you guys later.